Pacino,
Here.
Evans,
Here.
Heiser White is absent. Moody,
Here.
O'Toole,
Here.
Schneider,
Here.
and Matamore.
Here.
That's six present, one absent.
We have a quorum. Next order of business will be approval of the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Then the Heiser White has arrived, so we are all present. If there are no additions to the agenda, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second by John? Motion by Moody. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Planning Commission meeting minutes, the chair will entertain a motion on the minutes from 3/24/2025. I have a move from John. Let's have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have citizen comments now, for non-agenda related topics. No action can be taken. So I see we have an audience tonight. Feel free to come and address us if you wish. No takers? Not yet. All right. Then we'll go to item 4, Planning Commission and staff reports and comments.
Chair, just a couple quick announcements. First item is this Saturday from 10 to 1 at the Laramie Recreation Center is our Community Cleanup Day kickoff event. For those of you who've been around Laramie for a while, the city of Laramie hosts a community cleanup. Usually it's kind of at this springish time, depending upon the day. It might be spring or it might be winter at this time of the year. But the whole intent is to really get the community out, picking up, cleaning up, kind of, spring cleaning around just to dress things up around our community, one, a little bit before graduation, and also just as the weather turns nicer and the snow goes away. We often find a lot of hidden treasures of trash and wind-blown stuff and things like that. And so if you're available and want to participate, 10 to 1 at the Laramie Rec Center. We're going to have a couple food trucks, some different handouts, some things for kids. There's going to be bags and things like that to come grab and do some pickup. If you can't make it during this event, it's totally fine. If you want to get a group of people together or just want to go out by yourself, we would, love for you to use our volunteer software, sign up and show how many hours you put in. It's a great way for us to kind of track how much volunteerism we get in our community. And then two, even if you don't do that, just tell us, hey, we were over on this part of town and we cleaned up some stuff. You can actually leave your bags even there if you have a lot of trash or like find a random tire and you don't want to haul it around. Leave it somewhere where we can get it, and we will come by if you contact our office and get it for you so that you don't have to worry about that as well. And so if you're curious too about where you might want to clean up, please contact our office as well. And we will designate some spots. We have lots of spots that we would like people to get to. And so we're kind of keeping track of that. And we can direct you to maybe a place that needs some attention. So that is my first announcement. Second thing, just if you remember, we do have a city council joint work session with the Planning Commission next week. That meeting is in this room, starts at 6 o'clock. So if you can attend, that would be great. I think we have 4 people that have confirmed. And then last item, just something that we've been thinking about is staff, and really don't need anything done today. But just in our ability and our attempt to try to continue to get the Planning Commission as well as the public good information in our staff reports. If there's something you wish we were putting in our staff reports or something that you never use in the staff report, be giving some thought to that. We would like some of that feedback. We might bring that back at the next meeting or the following meeting, just depending upon maybe what the agenda looks like. And all we're trying to do is just improve what we get to you as a commission so that you guys can make good decisions. And so if there's something that you think that would be valuable, please let us know. We just trying to, do what we can to improve our staff reports, and that's really about all. So that's all I have. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
Where do we pick up bags?
So if you cannot make this event and you don't want to pick them up then, you can always come down to our office and we can get you bags. We'll get you bags any time of the year, technically, if you want to go pick up trash. Yeah,
Yeah, Spring Creek is an incredible mess this time of year with all
it
kinds
always
of,
is, yeah.
Commissioner Moody?
Yeah, I heard some things, about the, Laramie area growth plan with respect to the intergovernmental agreement. Could you give us a little?
Yeah, I can give you an update. So if, as you recall, we had brought the intergovernmental agreement to the county commissioners, I don't know, probably a couple months ago. They had tabled that item. At their last meeting, they had brought that item back and denied the intergovernmental agreement. Unfortunately, we didn't know about it, and so we didn't have staff available to go to the meeting, and so so it was denied. Really, we're going to regroup. We're going to try to put something together to get something back in front of them. That would mean that it probably would come back before this group as well. We believe that getting something that hopefully we can all agree on is still the right avenue when we've spent $300,000 between the two entities to put a plan like that together, cooperatively worked for 2 years on it. I think that there's lots of opportunity still. So that's still our intent. But we're going to be working on trying to put a draft together, get that in front of the county staff, and then go from there. So, yeah.
Did the county commission give you any indication as to why? Or is there anything you can work with to negotiate further, or was it just denied?
No, it wasn't just denied. You had some discussion about just the plan itself, which the intergovernmental agreement is based upon, isn't a good plan. That was definitely some of the discussion. And then I think there was some discussion too about the promise of like utility extensions as being an issue with one of the commissioners. So that was kind of I would say like kind of the high points of the meeting. And so in the intergovernmental agreement, there was some discussion about areas that were close to the city that the city would be able, would 100% assuredly provide utility extensions. So that's pretty hard for us to promise that. I mean, there's places in the city we can't do that even. And so I think it's trying to figure out what language, what maybe options are there related to that aspect of the intergovernmental agreement, and maybe how we can work through it. So that's going to be kind of where we focus, I think.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, any disclosures, ex parte communications, potential conflicts of interest and the commission?
Yeah, I'll mention, I'm not going to recuse myself, but I work with Anthony Brown on occasion as county engineer. He's the building manager for the courthouse, so.
Okay. Any others? Does the commission feel it'd be a problem? I don't see a problem with it. It's a small town. We all know each other. All right, current planning projects. Let's go to old business. Seeing none, we'll carry on to new business. Under new business, we have 6BI. We have a conditional use permit 25-0008 at 1995 Riverside Drive, oversized accessory building and number of accessory buildings. Amy? Take it away.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, and congratulations, and Planning Commission. The item before you this afternoon, as you stated, is the conditional use permit for 1995 Riverside Drive relating to the construction of an oversized accessory building and allowing more than 2 accessory buildings on the lot. The applicant, Anthony Brown, is here in person this evening. The subject property is zoned RR, rural residential, and the surrounding area is also comprised of RR zoned single-family residential lots and borders the C2 Wyotech property to the north. This neighborhood includes a mix of developed homes, many of which have larger detached garages and sheds, which is fairly common given the much larger lot sizes in this district. To give some background, the Laramie Municipal Code limits accessory buildings to a maximum size of 1,000 square feet and 2 structures per lot. In this case, the applicant is requesting to exceed both limits by constructing a 3rd accessory building, a 1,200 square foot detached shed, northeast of the existing home. The lot is roughly 0.8 acres and currently contains a 2,553 square foot single-family home and 2 single-family accessory buildings totaling 1,152 square feet. The new structure would be used to store vehicles, equipment, and repair personal items, and the shed will not be connected to utilities at this time and is for personal use only. Regarding the conditional use permit criteria, I'll go over the relevant items. So for ingress and egress, the lot has existing access via a gravel driveway from Riverside Drive, and the gravel driveway is permitted since the lot is over 16,000 square feet. And the applicant does share access, informal access with a neighbor. However, they both have contingencies in place and are willing to enter into a shared access agreement, and they also have plans to separate that eventually as well. Staff has identified no concerns. For setbacks, the proposed accessory building will exceed all setback requirements. It's 217 feet from Riverside Drive, 30 feet from the north lot line, 9 feet from the eastern lot line, and far exceeds the western property line. Parking's adequate. No utilities are being added. For screening, buffering, and landscaping, there are no requirements in the rear of the property. And for neighborhood compatibility, it does fit within the bulk and intensity of surrounding development. Again, even just looking kind of at a Google map image, you'll see that most nearby properties do have sheds and outbuildings of this similar size. For public notice, letters were mailed to property owners within 300 feet, and we received 1 comment in support of the application. Since it meets criteria in our code, Planning Division staff recommends approval subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Thank you so much, and happy to answer any questions.
Commission? Questions for staff? Seeing no questions, would the applicant like to address the commission?
Afternoon, Commissioners. I don't have anything to add to that. I just wanted to recognize publicly, this is the first time I've applied for one of these, and I was kind of intimidated reading all the codes and, but I do want to say that, I don't know how many questions for Emma, and she was more than helpful. And if she didn't know something, she would get back with me really quick. And I just wanted to recognize, you got a good person here. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioners.
We agree. Are there any public comments on this item? Just tell us your name for the record.
I'm Tom Schmidt. I live across the street from Tony, and I support his putting up these buildings. I recommend you go through with it. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioners, any discussion? Oh, we have another comment. Sorry.
Yes. My name is David Kuhn. I am the Facilities Director at Wyotech, and we are in full support of both these before the commission today. We want to be good neighbors and we support their projects.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commission, any discussion?
I think it's pretty reasonable and makes sense, so I'm willing to say yes.
Any others? If not, then the chair will entertain a motion.
I move to approve conditional use permit for the establishment of an oversized accessory building and to allow more than 2 accessory buildings on a lot zoned RR and rural residential district and shown in the attached plans located at 1995 Riverside Drive based on findings of fact and conclusions of law and subject to all the staff's recommended conditions.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Heiser White for the second, O'Toole for the motion. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? Conditional use permit passes. Yeah. Get this one out. Our next one is conditional use permit 25-009 at 1681 Riverside Drive, oversized accessory building. And take it away again.
Thank you, Chair. Before we get started, I just want to double check, since Leanne was on the application, that Tony Kupelik will be the one represented. Perfect. Thank you. So good evening, Chair and Commission. This is a very similar item related to the construction of an oversized accessory unit. The applicant, Tony Kupelik, is here in person this evening. The property is also zoned RR rural residential with the same C2 Wyotech northern border and surrounding RR neighborhood. The lot is approximately 1 acre in size, and it currently contains a 1,500 square foot single family home that is 16 feet 6 inches tall and 1 existing accessory building that is 675 square feet. The applicant is requesting approval to build a second accessory structure, a 1,488 square foot detached building, to be used for storing tools, recreational vehicles, and snowmobiles. This would exceed the 1,000 square foot maximum normally allowed for accessory buildings, and this new structure will be 16 feet tall, so still under the height of the principal structure, and will be located to the north of the home, well within the property's buildable area. Now, because the total square footage of accessory buildings would exceed that of the main home if both the 675 square foot building and the proposed 1,480 square foot building would be constructed, it would exceed the principal home square footage, and that would require a variance. However, the applicant has requested the option to remove the existing 675 square foot shed after the new structure is built. Staff has included this as a condition of approval to avoid the need for a separate variance, as the applicant had plans to tear down the existing shed after moving the equipment over, and that's set at 6 months after approval of this conditional use permit if it is passed. So moving into the findings, I'll again just touch on the most pertinent ones, as most have no change. So for ingress and egress, it's provided via a gravel driveway from Riverside Drive, which is typical for properties as we've seen. For off-street parking, there's adequate parking. Setbacks, it exceeds all required setbacks over 60 feet from Riverside Drive, 8 feet from the eastern lot line, with greater distances for the northern and western boundaries. For utilities, the new accessory building will not be connected to utilities at this time. And then for neighborhood compatibility, again, as we've just seen too, larger outbuildings are common in this part of town, particularly in the rural residential district due to those large lot size, and so will fit the character of the surrounding properties. No issues were found with noise, glare, odor, and no signage or lighting impacts beyond limited exterior lights. As addressed in the previous one, the yard does meet landscaping requirements, as there are no requirements for the rear yard. For public notice, letters were mailed to nearby property owners, and we did get one comment also in support of this application. And since it meets all standards of code and the applicant has agreed to remove the existing shed, staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit with the condition that that existing accessory structure be removed within 6 months. Happy to answer any questions that you all may have. Thank you.
Commission, any questions?
Emma, can you just clarify the 6 month? Is that 6 months after the variance is approved or 6 months after the building is finished for construction?
6 months after this is approved, since as we know, sometimes it can be difficult to nail down an exact date when a building will be finished.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. The applicant care to address the commission?
Chair, Commission, thank you for entertaining this. Just regarding the removal of the other structure, I've actually had the demolition permit issued and hope to have that building gone in the next 2 weeks. So
Great.
I think that that was something that we put in there because we didn't know at the time how we were going to handle the situation. So the only other thing I'd like to add is just to reiterate what the last gentleman said, that it's a bit of a process to go through, and it's not something that you do all the time, but the folks over at the office were absolutely incredible, helping me with everything that I questions. They called me, they got back to me, and it was a good learning experience for me. I think I can do it now, but but I just appreciate everything that they did for me, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question, and I know Emma said something about the lighting and so forth. Well, what is the proposed lighting for the?
There would be no change to the lighting.
Is sort of what I'm thinking.
There is one light right now that the power company provides. It's just a pole light in the yard, and that would be the only lighting that would be additional to that. Or that's not additional, it's existing lighting that's there now.
Thank you.
And that's the only plan I have. Thank you.
Are there any members of the public that would like to address this conditional use permit?
That's why Tech, we approve this one also. We want to be good neighbors and we support them. And they've been great neighbors up to this point. We just want to express our gratitude for everything they're doing for us also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. You got someone, Tom?
So someone else? Oh, Tom, yeah.
I live down the street and I'd also recommend you approve this permit for this building. That's all.
Thank you, Tom. All right, any discussion from the commission? Seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve a conditional use permit for the establishment of an oversized accessory building on a lot zoned RR rural residential district as shown on the attached plans located at 1681 Riverside Drive based on findings of fact and conclusions of law and subject to all staff's recommended conditions.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Moody and second by Jake. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. We'll go to the next one. And an old familiar one. Conditional use permit 25-0007 at 988 Pierce Street. Oversized accessory building and number of accessory buildings. Derek?
Chair, Commission, just a meeting of accessory buildings, I guess.
It's a gaggle, isn't it?
I don't know what 3 is, but I'll take it.
Too small for a herd.
So similar to the last 2 items that you just had, we do have an accessory building for 988 Pierce Street. This is for an oversized accessory building as well as number of accessory buildings on a property. I'm going to start out just really quickly and let you know the next item on your agenda when you potentially may be sitting as the Board of Adjustment is also related to the same building. And so just for clarity's sake, this is to permit with the conditional use an accessory building that's has a certain amount of square footage as well as number of buildings. In the variance item, if you so choose to do that one and get to that step in the process, it also would have to be approved in order for this project to move forward. Specifically for the variance, just to give you a preview so you understand the kind of full scope of this project, is to recognize that the total cumulative square footage on the property exceeds that of the residential square footage on the site. in our code, it's very particular about the fact that if you have something of larger size and square footage, it becomes more the principal use than the not the principal use. And so just kind of distinguishing the two and kind of what those discussions will be. And so I'm gonna talk to the item at hand, which is the conditional use. Very similar to these other the other two conditional uses that you just considered. We have a request for an oversized accessory building that's located on a 6.4 acre property. The property is zoned R1. And if approved, this would allow construction of a fourth accessory building, as well as that's on a property that has a home that's about 2,560 square feet in size and is 14 feet tall. Currently, hold on. Sorry, I got my numbers messed up. The single family home is 2,180 square feet. The accessory buildings would be 2,560 square feet. Sorry. As I mentioned, if you take a look at the site and if you look in the information that we provided at the kind of backs near the back, you'll see that there's this property. It's located off of Pierce Street. It's kind of a little peninsula that sticks into the county. For a little bit of brief history, it was once proposed for a subdivision. That subdivision did not proceed forward, and the house and just kind of the buildings that were there just have remained for maybe potential future development, or maybe the person using this property as they have, which is a home, and then some of the outbuildings are kind of for livestock that are kind of located in some pins and areas near the house. This accessory building here is to be proposed for kind of a detached garage, dry storage, extra vehicles and the other things that are found on the property. This building is located between the home and the right-of-way, which is somewhat unique. Most of the time, our accessory buildings are usually located at the rear of the structure. In this case, because the property is kind of long and narrow, it's just located in this area that logically, it's a logical location. It comes right off of the driveway that comes off of Pierce Street. And so in this consideration, and as you'll see in the staff report, you'll see a little bit higher of a design in terms of just the siding that would be on this accessory building, this kind of board and batten look. The whole purpose of that is in our code. Any accessory building that's located in the front of the property or in front of the principal structure, which is the home, it does require a higher level of design. This property and this, just because of its longness, it kind of lends itself to being located here. But also too, this building will be seen, but is still quite far from the road, as you'll see in the staff report. And so just kind of by the nature of this property, it's a very rural property. We believe that this did meet the intent of what kind of this property should be, and as well as the conditional use requirements. One thing I'll also note is because of the long nature of this property, the property owner was required to put in a fire hydrant that allowed for proper fire suppression for this new building here. If you recall, for some of you that were on this board, we have seen this 2 times before. And both those times, the applicant just didn't complete the process by submitting building permits and getting through the process so that the conditional use didn't expire. And so, once again, we are remaining consistent in our recommendation, which is a recommendation of approval. We do believe it meets the findings that are found that in there within a conditional use of ingress and egress to the property remaining the same. Off-street parking, there's plenty of space on the property, and this garage will only provide more places for that. Because of the large size of the property, we don't really anticipate any noise, glare issues on it. This doesn't really change the refuse needed or this trash service provided. Utilities are going to be still provided on site. This is a dry storage. There's no really intent to have any water, sewer, or anything like that to it. As we mentioned, it will exceed the square footage on the property, which the variance we'll look at next, but also meets allows us to consider more accessory buildings as well as the square footage of over 1,000 square feet. And so, really with that, we do notice in the newspaper as well as post the property and do mailed notice. At the time of writing this, we had received no inquiries about the conditional use permit. So with that, we would recommend approval. You'll see some basic findings of fact there, as well as conditions, just to ensure that building permits are pulled and that once again that the building is started and permits are pulled within a time frame permitted by the conditional use. So be happy to take any questions. As of right now, I don't see the applicant here. And so I will do my best to answer questions.
I've
Go
got a
ahead, Jake.
question, Derek, under department review, this second sentence, it says based upon the applicant submitted information, no comments were provided that have not been addressed. Does that mean that all city comments have been addressed?
Yeah, Chair, or Chair and Commission, what we do there is just recognizing that other departments have looked at this application. And so if there were comments from another department, they're either addressed in the materials that were provided by the applicant, or we would address them like in a condition of approval. For this one, the main issue was the fire hydrant and fire hydrant location, but since it's installed and properly located, the fire department had no further comments on this one. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Sharon?
I just had a quick question to make sure I'm understanding the scope of the conditional use permit. So it's described as for a specific purpose to store vehicles, et cetera, as opposed to having somebody live in it. But since it is a fairly substantial structure, and part of that is because it's up in the front of the road, if the owner wanted to change the use of the building, would they have to get a new, is this conditional use permit limited to the use that's specified in here? Our motion, the wording of the motion doesn't identify that use, but it is identified in the background, and maybe it's identified in the application that was submitted for it. I don't know.
No, that's a good question. So the conditional use process is purely about the size and the number of structures. That's why you would go through the conditional use process. We provided the information in the kind of background section about what they intended to use it for because they had provided it to us in their cover letter. The accessory building, if they decided to use it for any other type of accessory use, so, let's say not for vehicles and they put, I don't know, hay in it or something, it doesn't require any type of approval. Now, if that building is no longer an accessory building, for instance, a business was desired to start in that would not be permitted because of the zoning, the underlying zoning, not specifically the conditional use approval. And so, that would be more of an enforcement action that we would have to go through if something like that happened. In an instance where, like you saw with the last two conditional uses, really no use associated with it because once again, it's not pertinent to the actual issue other than we were provided the information. So we provided it to the commission. But we often find that people use their buildings for, all sorts of things, but usually unless they go into that area where we need to do enforcement, we usually aren't too involved in it, to be honest. So.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Derek. The applicant has still not arrived. So we'll go to public comment. Is there any public comments on this item? Seeing none. We'll move on. Chair would entertain a motion.
Well, can I just mention one thing that, I mean, it is a very large increase from the maximum of 1,000 to 2,500. And I just want to recognize that it is a much more, but the property is so large, acreage. I think it seems okay to me to have that sort of extreme exceedance of the maximum.
Well, the last time it came up, we had neighbors who addressed the commission concerned about the size of the building. They were notified, and they apparently neighbors have talked to each other or worked something out because they don't seem to be here today. So it is a big building, but I think it'll just fade into the background there, unless they paint it psychedelic colors or something. But that's another matter entirely. All right, any other discussion from commission? No public comments. The chair would entertain a motion on CUP 25-0007.
I move to approve a conditional use permit for the establishment of an oversized accessory building and to allow more than 2 accessory buildings on a lot zoned R1, single-family residential district as shown in the attached plans located at 988 Pierce Street, based on findings of fact and conclusions of law and subject to all staff recommended conditions.
No further discussion. All those in favor? Oh, okay, Moody will second. Any further discussion? And the chair, well, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Derek, have you got any long-range planning projects? Then I believe it's in order for us to adjourn as the planning commission. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
And it re-adjourned.
Yeah, and then we'll open the
Okay,
Board of Adjustment.
second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, our call to order the Board of Adjustment. Are there any witnesses who wish to address the Board of Adjustment on this matter tonight? Still no applicant? All right, well, we'll carry on. This is variance number 25-006988 Pierce Street, accessory building. And we're looking for a variance to Laramie Municipal Code 15.28.030.A.4. Accessory buildings subordinate in area to principal use. Derek?
Chair, Board of Adjustment, the variance before you is related to the last conditional use that you just considered, which is 988 Pierce Street. As I briefly mentioned, the purpose of the variance is to permit that the total cumulative square footage of the accessory buildings in the R1 zone that exceeds the square footage of the principal use. If you take a look in your staff report, what we did is we provided the information in the section of code related to what an accessory building or structure is. And specifically, we note that item 4A, which is that it is subordinate to and serves the principal building or principal use. And then B is subordinate in building area, intensity of use, and the purpose of the building, principal building or principal use served. Because it doesn't really meet those components because of the extremely large square footage and that it's more square footage than the actual home, we believe that and require that the variance request be brought before the Board of Adjustment in order for the totality of their project to be considered. I think as it was discussed during the last item with the conditional use, but I'll reiterate it for the record, is just that this is an extremely unique property at 6.4 acres in the city. It's on the edge of the community. It's in a kind of a peninsula that sticks out from the city limits. There are other larger accessory buildings on these very rural properties. Really, the request here on such a large property isn't very impactful. The purpose of this section of code is really to ensure that in much more compact or more dense residential areas, that you don't have properties just simply taken up with accessory buildings, and that there is still some space remaining, and that the accessory storage on a residential property doesn't supersede that of the residential nature of the property. In this case, because you do have a larger property, you do have, animals and all the things that are associated with that. Not only, as we mentioned in the conditional use, just a more number of accessory buildings, the extra square footage will allow for, as they said in their last application, general dry storage and vehicle parking and things like that. And so, once again, same notice goes out for this item as well to the public. We hadn't received any public comments as of the writing of this. And so when we look at the findings required for a variance, we talk about the uniqueness of the property, the large property, and the fact that a lot of these large kind of rural properties, even though it's within the city, do often have these larger accessory buildings. And so we did kind of note that. We do note that by not allowing this, that they would have just additional accessory storage could still be allowed, just would probably be outside, really is what the reality is. We also note, there's strict circumstances related to solar and wind really doesn't apply in this case. We note that because of the house size, they could request a different size of a building, but this is the request that they did make. We didn't feel like that they were asking for something that was really, really large that would make us question if there's any type of minimum standards that we should apply. We don't believe that this building will be injurious to the neighborhood. It's located actually pretty far from almost all the residential properties in this area, except the property directly to the south of it. But aside from that, it's located pretty far from the road, and once again, located on a very large property. We also don't believe that if the variance is granted, that it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood, as there's a few of these other buildings here. It's fairly rural, and probably long term, this is probably one of those properties that will probably redevelop, to be honest, of being so close to the city over time. Might be years from now, but probably eventually will. So with that, I would be happy to take any questions. There, as you'll see in the staff report, once again, some kind of basic conditions of approval, very standard with one of these applications. And with that, like I said, I don't think the applicant is here yet either, and so I'll try to answer any questions.
Commission, any questions for staff? Seeing none, there are no witnesses. So Chair will entertain a motion.
We have public comment.
Not unless they swore in.
Oh, right, gotcha.
Anybody?
I'll move to approve the requested variance from Laramie Municipal Code 15.28.030.A.4 that would allow the applicant to construct an accessory building that exceeds the total cumulative square footage of accessory buildings in the R1 zone and that exceeds the square footage of the principal use, located on 988 Pierce Street, based on findings of fact and conclusions of law and subject to the recommended conditions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Puccino with the motion, Moody for a second.
The better looking.
Oh, no, Joel for the second, yeah.
They're both kind of furry, so.
Yeah, you're both kind of hairy, so. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion, the variance passes. Before I ask for another motion, just if any of the members of the audience have any questions for the commissioners and want to talk to us after the meeting, none of us bite except O'Toole, but just be careful around him. feel free to come ask questions. All right, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Well, I didn't do too bad for my first one.
Great. Send it to you later.
No, we don't take